Hi, folks. So for today's video, I wanted to take a moment and introduce you a little bit to how we can incorporate citations into what we're writing. And a citation is just taking something either directly as a direct quote from what you've read, or pretty much anything that you're writing at this point is something that you have gotten from other information. So we should really be citing everything at this point, because anytime we read something and write about it, that's how those ideas got in our head. And we should give credit to the people who wrote the articles that gave us the ideas. But more specifically, what I'd like to talk about is how can we read some information, write about it in our own words, and then incorporate a direct citation from the article, which will help sort of beef up or give some strong evidence to what we're saying. If we can, in a really nicely written way, incorporate some of the researcher's own words from in what we're writing, that really helps solidify what we're saying. So what I did, since all of us have an article from Science Daily, I went on to Science Daily and I chose an article. And this one is about human made aerosols identified as a driver in shifting global rainfall patterns. So I'm only going to do just one little sentence on this to show you how you can incorporate a citation. Since in our project and in our last assignment, our 2-1 assignment, we were asked to talk about data and evidence. And I made a little video for you guys about the difference between data and evidence. I'm going to write a sentence about the evidence in this article that supports the hypothesis that human made aerosols have been identified as a driver in shifting global rainfall patterns. So, what I want to look for in this article when I read it is, how do the scientists know that it's human made aerosols driving global shifts? And I'm not going to read through the entire article in this video, I've already done that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to point out where the evidence is. And it's right in here, part of the evidence. Using multiple climate model projections, the researchers measured the effects of human-made aerosols have had on rainfall changes in the 20th and 21st centuries to discover that when only greenhouse gases or natural climate forces were considered, climate models were not able to capture the southward shift of the tropical rain belt. Now, had you read this article a little earlier, you would find that this southward shift of a tropical rain belt is what they're looking at as an important change in terms of how rain patterns are being viewed globally. And what this sentence means is that when they only looked at greenhouse gases and natural climate forces, remember, greenhouse gases are not only in the atmosphere because of humans. They're a good thing. They're what keeps our planet warm. The problem is that humans have added a lot of greenhouse gases to our climate, which is making it warm more quickly than our Earth can stabilize its temperatures. And the reason they know this was because when they ran these climate models, that southward shift of the rain belt that we're observing did not appear when only accounting for natural climate forces. So that's how these scientists, this is their evidence that they had to incorporate human-made aerosols, which means human-made greenhouse gases. These are gases that they like to sort of hang on to the heat that would normally leave our atmosphere. So let's write about that. So when we go to write about our piece, I'm just going to hop over here to a Google document that I have. And now that I've read this, I don't have to put everything in quotes. As long as I cite this information at the end, I can consider this information to be mine. I read it, it's in my head. As long as I cite it properly, I can write about it without having to put quotes around everything. So here we go. Scientists have discovered that global shifts in rainfall belts can be attributed to human-made aerosols rather than naturally occurring greenhouse gases. Okay, so I've just kind of typed out a little summary of the main idea. Now, you could leave it at that, but if I add a direct quote from my source, whomever's reading this is going to say, oh, okay, now I understand that this is sort of a nice overview sentence, but let's talk about the actual research. So I'm going to go in and do a direct quote. So I'm going to go into here where my evidence is, and I don't want to do a huge quote. Remember, you don't want to use a quote to say what you want to say. You want to put everything in your own words first, and then just use a small portion directly from the article to help support what you're saying. Remember, direct quotes are there to help support what you've already put into your own words. So I highlighted what I want to directly quote. I'm going to hit Control C for copy, but you can also use your mouse to right click and copy. And then I'm going to go back here. So here's how I'm going to introduce this. Researchers found that, and now I'm going to do my quote. And I'm going to do a Control V. Whoops, not a Control V twice. Let me erase one of those. I want to do an end quote. So now let's read this. Scientists have discovered that global shifts in rainfall belts can be attributed to human-made aerosols rather than naturally occurring greenhouse gases. Hopefully you guys noticed this little red squiggly line means I misspelled that. That's okay. I'm going to do a spell check at the end. Researchers found that only greenhouse gases or natural climate forces are considered. Climate models are not able to capture the southward shift of the tropical belt. Now that didn't quite sound right, so I'm going to go back. Again, another great tip, read your work out loud. So researchers found that when only greenhouse gases or natural climate forces are considered, climate models are not able to capture the southward shift of the tropical rain belt. Now we get into what I feel like some people think it's scary to use quotations because they don't know how to format it. It's not a big deal. We can do this, people. Right here on my next tab, here we go, APA Citation Basics. How do I do this? I put something in quotes. I know I've got to give someone credit. These are all resources that are found right. If you go to your online student services here, Shapiro Library, get started with research. You've got all of this information at your fingertips in the Shapiro Library. So let's take a look. What I can read here, if you're referring to an idea from another work, but not directly quoting the material, you just have to make a reference at the end. Well, I directly quoted the material, so let's see what it says about that. When using APA format, follow the author date method for an in-text citation. Okay, that's what I just did. In my text, I put a direct quote. That means that the author's last name and the year of publication for the source should appear in the text, for example, parentheses, Jones, 1998, and a complete reference should appear at the bottom. Okay, I can do that. If I go back to my article, here we go, Chung and Soden, 2017. Chung, Soden,